Hi, welcome to Gigi's Altered Objects. Today's project is dedicated to my third grade students at Anne Frank Elementary. They requested a shout out, so this one is for you students, the students in Mrs. Steele's 3E and 3G class at Anne Frank Elementary. Today what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to alter the cover of this little notebook. And I can see this project being used for summer birthday activities, rainy day activities, or here in North Texas, too hot to be out in the sun activities. Another big plus about this project is most of the items we're going to use can be found at Dollar Tree. The acrylic paint I'm using, Deco's acrylic blue. I'm going to mix that with tempera silver, glittery silver to give it some shine, and a little of the tempera white to lighten it up. Also, the trays, now mine is, the one I use is larger, but they have mini trays like this, and it's 6 for $1. So if you're going to do them for a birthday party, you get 6 for the same price. Also, the Jot products, we're going to use a paper clip. We're going to use a tag. They have seashells if you choose to use real seashells for your embellishments, washi tape, buttons, of course, sponges, and you'll need paintbrushes. They also have Mod Podge, which we'll use as a finishing tool. To adhere, we're going to use super glue. They do have several glues, so you can use whichever one you feel more comfortable with. You have to be careful. You can glue your fingers together. We're also going to do some stenciling with a metallic texture paste. They don't have the textured paste at any of the Dollar Trees in my area, so this is one thing you won't find, but you can get it at Michael's or Joann's. You're also going to need gesso, and that's going to make everything else take a coat of paint to it, and they don't have this there, but again, you can get it at most craft stores. Some of the embellishments that I am going to choose from are embellishments that I made from just a hot glue gun. Some of them are in different colors. This one is with a white and yellow that I mixed together. When the end of one is finishing, I put a new one in, and you get this great marbled color. Here's a silver and white, a gold and white. These are made using stencils. Again, you can find them at your craft stores. I didn't find these at the Dollar Tree. They do have hot glue guns at the Dollar Tree, or if you want, they also have little packages of clay. Those will take a little longer to dry. If you do it with a hot glue gun, it just takes a matter of minutes. They also have ribbon. I'm just going to use some pieces of scrap lace from my stash. All right, let me get this cleaned up and we'll begin. The first thing you want to do is collect all the items that you're going to use to resurface your book. So I have collected different C items that here. Some of the things that I use, I keep a baby wipe close by, some type of glass of water, a vessel that has water, and a paper towel just in case I need to clean. So after you have everything put out, and I lay it out first and make sure it's going to fit, the next step is to cover your book with gesso. And the reason you're going to do that is because gesso is going to allow the paint to adhere. The book surface is a little waxy. Some other surfaces are a little different. It will help the paint to go on evenly and adhere to whatever you're working with. So the first thing I'm going to do is just cover this with a light layer of gesso. It's important that in between each step you let the project dry. I have a heat gun that I can use on parts of it. Some of my embellishments are made from wax, and so I won't be able to use the heat gun to dry the gesso on those, but a fan or even just outside in the sun will help speed the process along. For this first step though, it's just gesso. I can use the heat gun as long as I don't put it too close. If you do that, it'll bubble up, and sometimes that effect is wonderful, and you can do that, experiment with it. You might like it and use that, but for today, that's not what I'm looking for. So I'm not going to hold it too close, just close enough to make sure that it's dry. Gesso is a primer. It's also, you want to think when you're using your tools that gesso is like a glue. So you want to keep your brushes that you use for painting separate from brushes or sponges that you use for glue. It can change the texture of the brushes, and when you're painting and you want fine lines or good coverage, you don't want to use your painting brushes for gesso. The only other thing about gesso is when you're working with something with fine lines like this, perhaps this octopus, you want to be sure that you don't glob it on, and then it will fill in the holes and you won't be able to see all the details of your object there. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do is we are going to take the stencil and choose some items to give some texture with, and I'm going to use this Heidi Swapp metallic texture paste. There are a lot of different texture pastes. This is what I have in hand right now. Use whatever you like or is on sale. I don't see much difference. This one, if I'm not going to paint over it, I like the sheen of it. So now I'm just going to, I like that little sea turtle, and I think that I'm going to, oh, look at that seahorse. I'll start with the seahorse. So I'm going to adhere this with a little piece of washi tape, and the reason I choose washi tape is because it holds wonderfully, but it doesn't stick or tear even fine paper. I want to try to keep my stencil as close as possible so that it doesn't go under, the texture doesn't go underneath. So I'm just going to, I forgot my texture tool. I like to actually apply the texture paste to my tool. You can also get tools, these come in packs of 3 at Dollar Tree. So that's also economical, and you can use any shape for this, whatever you're comfortable with. So I'm looking at my seahorse, and I'm just going to fill in where the seahorse is. As easy as that. And then you want to lift it straight up. All right, now I'm going to, let's see. I think I like the fish shape right here. I can reuse my washi tape. Put it right down. Again, put my texture paste on my tool and go right over the top of the stencil. And lift it straight off. You can see I got a little on this part and I don't want it there. That's why I keep the baby wipe handy, because as long as it's wet, you can just wipe it right off. And what we're doing is we're going to layer different textures and shapes onto our book. And when you're doing this, think more about the shape of what you're choosing to collage and not so much about the color, because the color is going to end up being the same for everything on the whole book. At the end, I might add something shiny to pop out, but as far as the buttons that I'm going to add, it doesn't matter what color they are. I want my project to be a blue. The color doesn't matter, because once you put a layer of gesso over the whole thing, you're going to paint it and it's all going to be the same shade. And if you're a more advanced crafter, you might like to do some splashes with some different types of inks, maybe some pearl, or what else do I have here? Maybe some distress paint, just something to add a little extra color. All right, so we're going to dry this, and like I said, you can dry it outside or under a fan. I am going to use my heat gun to speed the process along. All right, and that started, and I don't want it to bubble, but as long as my gesso is dry underneath, I can start with my layering. So the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to layer. I'm using scraps of lace that I had in my stash. You can use, oh, that's going to cover the fish up, but that happens. You can use different types of ribbon. Cheesecloth works really good. I think I want this on the outside. Oh, I like that texture. I wanted to show. So first I'm just putting it, layering it on there to see what it will look like. And then I'm going to adhere it. Now you can do this with gesso. You can do it with Mod Podge. I like Mod Podge for adhering. Again, this is a glue, so I wouldn't use a brush that I'm going to paint with. I use one of the tools that I have that is designated for glue. And you can see some of it's going to hang over the edge. That's only going to add charm later. All right, that piece is down. I'm going to add a little extra Mod Podge on the end. Again, this is a glue. And put my next piece of lace down. Hopefully my little fish's face will poke out of there a little bit. And I'm not really too worried about that. It's all about layering, and you'll see when it's finished how wonderful the effect is. All right, so I'm going to leave that and then start adding my other elements. And like I said, I do keep water close by so I can pop my tools in there, especially when you're blogging, because you don't want to get up and clean everything, but you also don't want it to get stuck and disgusting. All right, when you add your embellishments, always think of odd numbers. They're more appealing to the eye. So 1s, 3s, 5s, it's just like gardening or even plating food. So I'm going to use this octopus and this shell and this little seahorse for elements of 3. I don't like to worry about things coming loose. So I like to use a super glue. One of my favorites to use is this E6000. It works with almost everything, but since we're doing things from the Dollar Tree, I'm going to use the little super glue that I got from the Dollar Tree. And just glue these in a group of 3. And the book is tiny, so if you choose maybe one larger thing you like, that's fine. And then I looked in my stash for some buttons, and you can get buttons at the Dollar Tree as well. Or use things found things that you have laying around that you like. It doesn't matter. Old keys. When I looked at my buttons, I saw some little stars. I thought, well, I'm going to use a starfish later. I saw some tiny round ones, but I thought I have nothing really square on my page, so I'm going to choose these square buttons, and I'm going to put the tiniest one in the middle. So we're going to go 1, 2, and then 3 in the middle. This is the reason I like the 6000 so much. It does adhere faster than the super glue, but I'm doing this experiment since I told you to try it and make sure that it works. If it doesn't work, then I'll tell you, and I'll try another glue that I bought from the dollar store. All right, so we're going to let this sit before I cover it with another coat of gesso, and we'll be right back. The super glue actually adhered very well. It probably took 30 seconds for me to go clean my stencil off, and when I came back and gave it a test, everything is very firm on the book. All right, so we have our lace, we have our wax figures, we have our stenciling, and I put some buttons on there. Now, of course, you can use real seashells too, and they do have those at the dollar store, all different sizes, and these particular ones are really tiny, so that works good with a small project like this. So I'm going to use a paintbrush this time instead of using the sponge to do my layer of gesso on the wax figures and the lace, because I want to make sure that I don't cover up all the intricate details that are on them. So paying attention to that, and remember, we already covered the book itself, so now we just want to make sure that paint will adhere to the buttons and the other embellishments that we've added. And again, I'm doing this because the end project is all going to have the same color throughout, except for something shiny that we'll add at the end. I think I'll add it right to the lace. All right, so the gesso is there, and this time I can't use my heat gun to dry this because these figures that I created are wax. They're made up from hot glue, so if I heat them up too much, they will just melt. So I want to make sure that I get the edges, which really, you can't go wrong when something's homemade. Any little imperfection usually just adds charm to it, or you find a way to add something extra to accent a different part. So, all right, I think that's pretty well done. So I'm going to have to let this air dry, and we'll be back for the finishing touches. So the finished project looks like this. You have a cute little altered book, and hopefully through the light you can see the little seahorse raised above, and I actually see some of the glitter from the silver paint that I put in, and I added the shiny starfish, and that was made with the same mold that I showed you before and gold hot glue, or you can add something found, even an old key, just something shiny that's separate color from what you have. Makes it pop off the page, sorry. And you can tie it up with a ribbon. I used this punch to punch out a couple papers and put it on a paper clip for a little embellishment in your book. And there you can save it for pictures, summer projects, journal writing, whatever you'd like. So 3G and 3E, I hope you like your blog. Love you guys. Bye.